Hello, and welcome to what I think is our 35th episode of the Morrowind Mod of the Month series, where we take a look at the best mods released each month as decided by you guys in our online poll. As always, I'm your host, Dark Elf Guy, and today we're going to be taking a look at the best mods of April 2018. And, April was really a pretty typical month, all things considered. We had about 42 new mods released from Morrowind in April, a bit down from March, but, that's understandable with the modathon on the horizon. I mean, historically, most modders do tend to delay their mods until May in order to participate in the modathon. Regardless though, we did have a few new gameplay and immersion mods released in April, but also a fair number of new MWSE 2.1 mods, including a few that we're going to be taking a look at here today. But first and foremost, down the links are down below, and for the record, we do not have an online poll for the best mods of May. Due to the modathon, the best mods of May 2018 will be decided by judge vote, and the results from that will be, coming out in the next week or so. But moving on, our mod of the month for April 2018 is actually a tie between two different mods, so we'll be covering both of them here. The first is MWSE 2.0 Cinematic Casting and Combat by SE Engineer 99. And this is basically a combat enhancement mod that doesn't really change anything about the combat in Morrowind itself, but, does make it perhaps a bit more interesting. First and foremost, it changes the way the camera works in combat. Since in vanilla Morrowind, you pretty much always had to be in third person or first person, perhaps switching when you wanted to, but there was no automatic, switching the camera for certain events. And now with this mod, whenever you go to strike an enemy with a weapon, like an axe or a sword, or even cast a spell, the camera will just go into third person briefly, so you can see yourself strike your foe, and after you've, landed or missed a hit, it'll go back into first person. And this can perhaps be a bit disconcerting, during a long battle, or perhaps a lot of quick and rapid strikes in a row, but on the whole, it does make the combat experience a bit more, cinematic, as the name of the mod here would imply. Of course, that's not everything this mod does. It also adds in descriptors during combat, like your swing missed, or you landed a direct hit, or your blade connected crudely with your opponent, or you just barely missed, or you tripped or something, or if you're using a bow, your arrow makes a graceful arc, and so on and so forth. And these aren't really, big changes or anything, but it does kind of help, since one of the problems with, Morrowind's dice roll combat is the fact that it doesn't really tell or show you anything. And while this mod doesn't really add anything visually as to why you missed, it does provide some nice combat descriptors to explain why you missed, which is certainly better than what vanilla Morrowind did, which was basically nothing. And there's still one more thing that we need to mention here. In addition to all that, perhaps one of the biggest features included in this mod is automatic ammo equipping for bows and crossbows. So for example, if you use up the last of your, iron arrows here while attacking something, this mod makes it so that you'll automatically equip whatever else you have on hand. And in my case, that's chitin arrows, so you can just keep on fighting while, using a bow without having to break combat in order to equip a new type of ammo or anything. Which is just incredibly convenient and a massive boon for, archers out there. And all in all, this is a pretty interesting mod that demonstrates just a few of the new features with MWSE 2.0, and it's definitely worth taking a look at. But that's not our only mod of the month for April 2018. Also tied for first place is Neb-Crescen, a Daedric artifact mod by PikachunoTM. And now we did actually showcase this mod already for Morrowind Modding Showcases episode 69, but surprisingly, it also got tied for, our mod of the month here. Which is, kind of curious because it is a rather small mod, but all well, minor detail I suppose. And basically, this mod adds the Neb-Crescen, a Daedric artifact mentioned in the 16 Accords Madness, used by Shulgarath to trick Malakath into murdering his own son. Which is certainly an interesting and gruesome bit of lore there. And you'll find this powerful sword on an orc in the Northern Ashlands, who has clearly been driven just mad by the blade here, given the body nearby. And indeed, this sword comes with a powerful curse, and tends to drive those who use it insane. And taking a quick look at the enchantments here, it's clearly a pretty powerful and certainly quite valuable sword, but again, it is cursed, so keep in mind that using it does come with a price. And of course, we're just going to take a closer look at this curved blade, a weapon meant for really anyone but a Nord, and it's a really nice looking sword. The model quality here is pretty decent, and the hilt especially looks really nice. Of course, we have shown all this, before, so we're not going to spend a huge amount of time just checking this blade out again. But all in all, this is certainly a pretty decent small item and quest mod that just adds a fairly interesting artifact from Elder Scrolls lore to the game here, and it's definitely worth checking out if you'd like to collect artifacts. And all that makes it our tie pick for the mod of the month for April 2018. And moving on though, our second pick for the mod of the month is Blight Storms Restored by half 11. And now, the idea of this mod is to make it so you have a chance of catching a blight disease while out in a blight storm, which according to lore is, something that's supposed to do anyway. And now whenever you enter a blight storm or travel through a cell during a blight storm, you'll have about a 10% chance of catching a blight disease of some sort, which is actually, still pretty rare. I had a bit of a hard time, trying to catch one for this showcase here, but it can happen, especially if you're traveling through a large area, during a blight storm. And in addition, this mod takes into account, resist blight disease spells and potions, which increase your immunity to, catching a blight disease by just a small amount. And you also get a message when entering an area of an active blight storm, as if, the red clouds and billowing dust everywhere wasn't enough of a sign. And just real quick, it should be mentioned that this mod really only works if you haven't beaten the main quest, as blight storms afterwards will no longer carry the risk of catching a blight disease. And this is obviously a fairly different implementation than what you'll find in Frostwind, which also has a blight disease catching mechanic, but based on the time you spend, exposed during the storm rather than the distance traveled. And I'm not really entirely sure how much Frostwind takes into account to resist blight disease spells or the main quest. I'm not entirely sure if Frostwind is compatible with this either. That's probably something for the authors to figure out. But either way, this is a nice immersive gameplay mechanic, and that makes it our second pick for the mod of the month. And finally, our third pick for the mod of the month is Immersive Alcohol by Merlord. And now, as you might expect from the immersion master himself behind the famed Frostwind mod, this is basically another immersive mod to add a few new gameplay mechanics to the game here, namely the way booze affects your character. And with this mod, it's now possible to get drunk, and not just drunk, but also, become an alcoholic and get addicted to drinking. And now when you go to drink a bottle of, like, say, a Cyrodiilic brandy, Flynn, or any of that native stuff, your drunkenness level will increase slightly. And this depends a bit on your endurance. Higher level characters will take longer to get drunk. But, for more low level characters, it'll only take you maybe a couple of drinks to get tipsy, then a couple more drinks to get mildly drunk, and then maybe 5 or 6 more drinks to get completely wasted. And this, of course, affects your stats, as you'll start losing intelligence and agility as you get more and more drunk. And not only that, but eventually you'll start losing your eyesight, getting, slightly blind, first gradually at about 10 or 20%, then up to 50%, making it difficult to see. And now if you're like me and, you're using an all cascade to control consumption mod, it'll make it somewhat easier to prevent yourself from getting completely drunk, as you have to wait about 5 seconds in between consuming a drink. Though as you can see here, you'll still get drunk eventually, and it takes about 1 in-game hour of being awake to lose the negative effects of drinking. And of course, the more you drink, the more you increase the chance of becoming addicted, which means you'll suffer withdrawal if you don't drink, some booze every now and then. And the only way to get rid of your addiction is to go 3 days without drinking, the last one spent entirely awake, which will of course, come with a ton of negative side effects. So this mod, really does make drinking a lot more dangerous than it was in vanilla Morrowind. And of course, it isn't all negatives. If you have Frostwind installed, you can drink booze to warm yourself up out in a cold environment and reduce your exposure rating. So that's just, something to keep in mind here. And all in all, this is a pretty impressive little immersion mod, and that makes it our third and final pick for the mod of the month for April 2018. And that wraps up today's video here. As always, download links are down below. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.